Shabbat Shalom. What a blessing. Hard week this week. I'm sure you're feeling all the tension that's going on worldwide and all what's happening. Some of it's distraction in your life probably, but there's other things that are just happening that it's important for us to know. I was privileged to be a part of a small group of leaders to minister to key people in Ukraine this week via Zoom, and a very distressing situation there. Brian Koyman went back and pulled an article I wrote in 2004 and in 2008 when I was in Ukraine to encourage them that they had a short window of reviving and that things would change before we got to 2026, and that there would be a move to regain the lands that had been given up when the Iron Curtain fell. And really what you see happening over there is an incredible move to restore Gog and Magog. In other words, when you read in Ezekiel 38, if you would go read that, you would understand it better, what's happening. And so, I know God's in control of the nations. The nations belong to the Lord. He is the possessor of heaven and earth, and every nation must be presented to Him as inheritance. We are preparing an inheritance to present to Him. There's a remnant in every nation, and the people that the men and women we were talking to, they are standing in incredible ways. And yet I know there's 7 other nations that must stand. And it really, God showed me in 1983 this 7-fold cord of wickedness when I was reading Esther for this week, because next week, remember, is Purim that we're going to celebrate, and we want you to be a part of it. And Esther not only had to dethrone the Antichrist spirit that was moving at that time, Haman, but then she had to mobilize the armies to go against 9 different sons he had that ruled the entire region. And so we want to start seeing bands of wickedness pulled off. Now, you're probably saying, why do we want to see that? Well, because, see, Satan works with time and law. And Satan wants to get out of time what God is trying to do in the earth. He always wants to do that. That's why he has a remnant here in the earth realm, to decree, to enforce His timing in the earth so that we can present to Him the fullness of His plan. We are moving in a harvest season, and I was thinking about Shabbat. We've been in this joy movement. And joy, God encouraging us to have joy in the midst of the war. And I want you, next week, matter of fact, for Shabbat, Daniel and Amber will tape something about what they're hearing and what they're seeing and give us an update. But this week, I want you to know that we are in this time of coming into a new joy in our worship. It's amazing. So when I was reading the book of Esther, I got to the place where the eunuch was over this harem, and she had to have favor first from that eunuch to be chosen so she could submit herself to either die or live before the king, chosen for a time such as this. That eunuch's name was Haggai. And it made me think of the book Haggai, the prophet Haggai. And Haggai is such an interesting book. He's a restorative prophet. And those 2 chapters are worth you reading to get excited. See, these people had come out of Babylon, and they had come back and started rebuilding their lives, and the warfare had gotten so intense in Jerusalem that what they decided to do was shift from rebuilding what God wanted built and build their own houses. So what the Lord said to them, I'm going to shake everything. I'm going to start shaking things. I'm going to shake things. I'm going to shake this place. I'm going to shake you. I'm going to shake things so the glory of the latter house will be greater than the glory of the former. Have you ever thought that all the shaking we're going through is to produce a greater glory than we've ever experienced? And see, these people had grown disinterested in what God was doing. They'd gotten disillusioned over the promises, and they were discouraged. And God said, wait a minute, I'm going to shake you out of discouragement. I'm going to shake you out of disillusion. I'm going to shake you out of disinterest. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start causing you to have so much wealth to build the kingdom. And then you find in building this new temple structure of worship, He said, you'll see those from the latter house shouting with joy. You'll see those new shouting for joy, and the shout will be so great and the crying will be so great because of what God is doing that no one will even recognize what group they're a part of. I decree right now God is shaking a glory realm out of us, shaking celebration out of us, shaking us so that we come up with new ways to prosper, shaking us out of the discouragement and the war that's over us and around us, and shaking us into this joy and this incredible celebration of worship in a house that He is building for today. Enter in with us. Take Shabbat. Reflect on the hard week that has passed. Look forward to the week ahead and know by faith you can walk in a new glory.
One thing I ask, one thing I seek, one thing I ask, one thing I seek, is your presence. Oh, it's your presence. It's your presence. My light, my salvation. It's your presence. Oh, it's your presence. It's your presence. My light, my salvation. It's your presence. Oh, it's your presence. It's your presence. Above all the noise around me, I'm asking for your presence. Oh God, for your presence. Oh, I'm asking for your presence. Oh, this one thing I ask, this one thing I desire. Above all the noise, above all the noise, it's your presence. Shana no no mosikayate. Shane molasai. Lasaya. Lasaya, Lasaya, Kurema sing, Kuna masa, Sune metinga no manenganya, Sune meya, Sune meya, Sune menale no no manie, Sune ya ho, Sinema ho, Sine meyo, Sine meyo, Sine melana no ninaya yo, Kana no se, Kana no se.
For the Lord would say to you, I am looking for the confident one, says the Lord. The Lord says, I am looking for the one who is yet trusting, who is still holding on to their faith. For have I not said in my word that the just, the righteous ones, shall live by faith? Offer your praise and your prayer and your petition and supplication, and offer your offerings in confidence that I will heal your bone marrow, that I will touch your land again. I am hearing the petitions and the worship of the confident ones. Do not let your confidence wane in me, for my confidence in you has not waned, says the Lord. Know this day, confidence begets confidence, says the Lord. Offer your prayer and your supplication to me in confidence, and watch me work out my word in you, says the Spirit of the Lord.
For did I not say that you would do greater and mightier things than I have done in this earth? But it is my faith in you, my faith in you. Grab a hold and agree with my faith in you that you will do greater and mightier things than I have done.
Shabbat Shalom, guys. Wonderful to be with you. This Friday morning that we're taping, it's a cold, drizzly Friday morning here in North Texas, which makes me real happy because I like the cold weather. But we welcome you to be with us in this evening or Shabbat day or whenever in the week you happen to be watching. Welcome. I wanted to share a little something that the Lord spoke to me last week, and He's been kind of plowing it into me and drawing it out of me in the subsequent time. And I think it's something that's real important for us. It's not that it's new revelation, it's just a new way that He spoke it, and perhaps a new avenue for us to look at it. That I pray, as I was praying this morning, I was like, Lord, let this go out into your people, Father. Let me speak it in such a way that it can enter their spirit and cause revelation to come, cause change to come, because we need it. We're in a place we really need it. But He was speaking to me about overcoming, and let me just share you the pathway that he led me there. One day last week, he led me in a different way in my time with him and in the Word. And typically, I have things that I look at regularly, and then I'm typically, in this book or that book or whatever. But anyway, one day I just started singing Psalm 139. And it started off as just kind of a worship decrees, and then it sort of morphed and blossomed into my whole time of communion with Him that morning. And of course, it's a very familiar psalm for us. It's one that we use typically to talk about life, the sanctity of life, how we're created. And those verses 13, 14, 15, 16 down in there particularly. And when I got to those, I started at the top of the song and was just kind of working my way singing it through there. But when I got to those verses, the Lord began to draw something different out, and specifically he started with verse 15 where he says, my bones were not hidden from you. And when I read that, I began to see the Lord there during the time of me being knit together. And the reason that stuck out to me is because that is a generational issue with infirmity that I find myself warring with right now. Over the last decades, I've warred out of poverty thoughts, I've warred out of religion, and it was like, okay, now for that final chord of that threefold chord, we're going to deal with some infirmity that's been in your generations. One thing of which is arthritis, is bone issues, is weakness in the joints. And so when I read that where he says, my bones were not hidden from you, and I saw him there, and I saw him smiling, and I knew that he was seeing woven into my DNA those generational iniquities that would manifest as joint issues. And he was laughing, and I was like, Lord, I don't think it's not particularly funny to me. But he said, I am weaving. At the same time, this is being woven into that strand of DNA. He said, right alongside, right on top of that same strand and of that iniquity and that infirmity, he said, I am weaving overcoming. And that jumped up in me, that exploded in me. We know we're overcomers. We hear that time and time again from all different avenues, all different scriptures. But he was saying to me, he said, that is very part of your very DNA, and you have to know that whatever issue you are facing, whatever generational iniquity, whatever generational thing you're confronting and warring with right now, you have to know that I have already woven the overcoming in it and of it into your being. He said that that thing with your knee, that is not a healing issue, even though healing is obviously a part of it. Healing, the manifestation of healing is what you're looking for. But he said, this is not a healing issue. It's an overcoming issue. He said, you're not pressing in for healing. You are pressing in for overcoming. And that applies to whatever you are dealing with. I happen to be dealing right now with a physical thing. It may be, you may still be warring through some religious frameworks and structures and thoughts and blockades in your thinking and in your emotions and in your faith. Or it may be, you still may be warring out of seeing things from a place of poverty mentality. But whatever it is, the principle is the same. The principle is that overcoming has already been woven into your being. And so as I was looking at that, I went back to the verse above, and it's so familiar to us, where the King James says, that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. And other translations, they take that word fearfully, and this is the Complete Jewish Bible. I am awesomely made, wonderfully made. And I went and looked at the Hebrew for those two words. And it's very interesting to me, something else that exploded within me, because the Hebrew for that word fearfully, it's the word yareh, and it literally means fearful, fearfully, to fear and to revere and to be afraid. It's a root word in Hebrew. It's the root word for the fear that's expressed in Proverbs as the fear of the Lord. And so I began to look at that element of fear, and I thought, Lord, that was woven into us, in our being. Why and what are the machinations of all that? And I began to see some things really incredible. First of all, and this is not a surprise, nothing new to us, we were created to fear the Lord. We were created to revere and reverence and worship Him as beings, and we know, if we don't do that, we're going to turn it somewhere else. But I also saw, and the Lord said this, He said, I created you to be a fearsome creature, to be honored and respected and reverenced by creation and by the denizens of the spirit realm. That's part of our dominion mandate in the earth. The Lord said, I created man. You're in my image. I created you as something to be feared, to be reverenced. And of course, when Adam fell, that perverted, that immediately became twisted. And here's where I saw that, because the first use of that word is in Genesis. When Adam said, I heard your voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, in Genesis 3. And so you see right there that element of fearsomeness, of being a fearsome being, that the Lord intended for us to walk in and move in. And that doesn't mean, being a tyrant. It means having dominion in the earth, having stewardship over creation. And also there is an element of there, and I'm not saying I get this completely, but I know there's an element there over the spiritual realm, the angelic host. The word says we're created a little lower than Elohim, than God, in His original intent. And so it was like when Adam fell, we went from being an object of fear to being afraid. Lucifer was able to twist that into an iniquity that sowed the wrong kind of fear into us as creatures and creations. But the good news is that what the first Adam lost, the second Adam has restored to us. Everything Yeshua did brought us back to our standing from the beginning. In fact, when you read John in the Aramaic, John 3, when Jesus is talking to Nicodemus, and of course most translations from the Greek say you must be born again, the Aramaic says you must be born from the beginning. So when we come to the Lord, when we come into salvation, when we come into fellowship and communion with Him by His body and blood and in His Spirit, we are coming back into the beginning. And so that element of us, in fact, Chuck says all the time, y'all are dangerous creatures. We just don't know it. Well, he's talking about that portion of us that God created as fearsome beings, as beings with dominion in the realm, in the spirit realm. And that is part of that element of overcoming that is woven into our DNA right alongside everything else the enemy thought he was sowing into us, pulling out of us. God said, but your overcoming is right there in it. And a part of that is the fact that you are a fearful creature. You are a fearsome creation. You are a fearsome one made in my image. And in days to come, and now even, it's really important that we grab a hold of that and understand that and move in that. As I said, not in some kind of tyrannical, I'm bad and you better know it way, unless you're talking to the devil, but understand that dimension of our being that was woven into us in the beginning. And the other word in that phrase, fearfully and wonderfully made, that word wonderfully is pretty cool too. It's another root word. It's actually a pay word, pala. And so it's something we can be looking at throughout the rest of this decade. It's something the Lord wants to break open and see expressed in us. And it means to be distinct or marked out or separated or distinguished or even sever. It has a similar meaning, a similar thought as the word holy, something uncommon and set apart. But what is really cool to me is that the first use of this word, in fact, the predominant use of it, it's used 2 or 3 times in Psalm, but the predominant use of it is in Exodus when God is speaking to his people and getting ready to bring them out. And he says, King James says sever, but I will sever, I will set apart, I will distinguish in that day the land of Goshen in which my people dwell. And then he goes on for several more verses as those plagues, subsequent plagues are coming, and he's saying, but I'm setting apart Goshen. I'm severing my people away from that. And so that word, wonderfully made, we've got to know that it not only means that we are uncommon and unique and individual in every way, but it also means, and you have got to know too, that in your very being, knit into the aspect of overcoming that I have put in your DNA, there is the reality that you are set apart, that whatever may come, whatever we're facing, we're in war now, the world is, we don't know what's going to come to pass in days ahead, but whatever it may be, you've got to know that you dwell in Goshen. You dwell as one who is set apart. You dwell as one that I have made a distinction between you and the rest of the world. And that is a great that builds that overcoming faith. It builds the sound of overcoming in us, coming out of us. So that's what I wanted to share. It's what I want to leave you with, is to just encourage you, whatever you're facing. And I know, I read the emails that come in. I hear the phone calls. I see the prayer request. And I know how dire how things are for many of you. And you've got to know, all of us have warred through similar circumstances. Man, I took decades to war out of junk, we'll say. I'd like to say something else. But there is victory. There is overcoming, warring in us and through us. And all you got to do is grab hold of that. Doesn't matter. You don't have to feel it. You don't have to, discern it in your atmosphere or anything else. You just got to know that it's something God put in you, and you can step into the reality of that and just keep moving one step at a time, one day at a time. That is our overcoming. That is how we overcome. If you don't stop, you can't be stopped. Satan can't stop you. The only thing he can do is convince you to stop. But that's not who you are. That is not how you were created from the beginning. You were created with overcoming in your DNA. You were created as a fearsome creature in the earth and in the spirit realm. And you were created as one that God has separated and set apart and called his own, set his distinguishing mark upon, and know that you will carry that forward in days to come, whatever else is going on around us. So I leave you with that. I bless you with that, Father. I just say, God, let that revelation, let it blanket your people. Father, as they hear it on Shabbat, Lord, let it be woven in to the peace of the week, Father, the peace of your Shabbat, the wholeness. God, let it be woven into the end of the week and the beginning of the new week that will break forward and break forth. Father, we thank you for who you are. We thank you for who you made us to be, that we are in your image and we have been born again from the beginning, and everything in your original intent and creation is ours. In Yeshua's name, by the power of his body and his blood, we bless you and always wish y'all a Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. So I have this thing to present, and I was trying to figure out how exactly to present it, because sometimes whenever the Lord sort of downloads something into me, He gives me the way to present it, He gives me the way to close it, and I didn't really know how to open this. So I was just like, okay, well, I'm coming in. I got to share this thing, and I'm just going to have to trust that He's going to make a way for me to share it, you know. And so when I came in the church, I was real heavy. I haven't been sleeping all that well, so it can either be physical things, or it can be warfare, or it can this and that. It can be all sorts of things. But the point is that I came in here not knowing how to start it at all. And then all of a sudden just started bumping into people, and I'm talking about our problems. And I actually find that funny, because it's hilarious that the Lord puts people in your life to go over your stuff with. On one hand, it just makes you realize that you're not alone. On the other hand, it just makes you realize that no matter what you're going through, the world's still spinning, and it can range from small things, small uncertainties, to big uncertainties. A small uncertainty being like my house situation. A big uncertainty can be to the Ukraine and Russia thing. And I've been reading through Samuel, and I came across this one scripture, and I've got it up right here so I can read it to you. It says, do what you think is best. This is when Jonathan was talking to his armor bearer, and the Lord actually gave Jonathan an assignment, and he was just like, you got to go do this, and it was just him and his armor bearer, which I thought was really cool. He didn't need a big army to go and carry out this mission that the Lord had him on. But it's 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 7 through 12. And it says, do what you think is best, the armor bearer replied. I'm with you completely, whatever you decide. Then the men from the outpost shouted to Jonathan, come up here and we'll teach you a lesson. Come on. Climb right behind me, Jonathan said to his armor bearer, for the Lord will help us defeat them. Jonathan he got this message from the Lord, this assignment from the Lord, and he was just like, I'm going. It didn't matter what circumstances that he was about to face. Honestly, I don't even know if he really gave it a second thought, because the Lord told him to go. And that's how a lot of people are when it comes to the Lord. It's, carrying out your mission, carrying out your assignment. It also makes you sound really cool when you're like, I've got an assignment to carry out. It makes you feel real special, real Mission Impossible-ish. But I just loved it because it was such, it was a faith and trust thing. Jonathan had faith that the Lord would not abandon him, and the armor bearer trusted his faith and gained his own through the act. I trust the Lord to handle the Ukraine thing just like he told me that he would. And I also have faith that I'm being obedient with this house situation. And I know that's a lot of you out there. You got these big uncertainties and these small uncertainties. It was like some of the people that I talked to today. They were just telling me about all these things that are going on in their lives, and it's just this. It's hard for them, and I'm not saying that they feel weak in it, but it's just they're going through it, and it's these hurdles. So me, I'm kind of a joking, silver lining kind of person. So he was like, it's just this hurdle, and it's hard to get over. And I was like, yeah, but you're going to. You might pull a groin, but you're going to get over the hurdle, and then you're just going to keep on pushing forward, And it's a week of breakthrough, and I've been saying that. I said that all last week, and I've been saying it all this week. I've been speaking it, and even when it gets hard to say it, which it does get hard to say it, I just know that there's breakthrough. And we've all praised through hell before, wondering if the Lord would save us. But now we get to praise through hell knowing that he will. Just like how Jonathan just went because the Lord said, this is what you got to do. He went. And so, even in our small uncertainties, we should know without a shadow of a doubt that the Lord's going to take care of us. And then with our big uncertainties. And speaking of just praising through hell, last year whenever we lost our friend, I did this instrumental thing and put it with a video of pieces of the garden, trees and just the fields and flowers and stuff like that. And it was just one of those things where I was just captivated by the simplicity, but it was very, I don't know, it was just big to me all of a sudden, because I've never really noticed it until I really started working out there. When I made my transition, I knew I was supposed to make my transition. The devil didn't want me to make my transition because he knew that I was going to be gaining revelation through it. He knew that I was going to be crossing hurdles, jumping hurdles, and plowing forward. So yeah, I hope that you enjoy the video. It was just something that just kind of got downloaded into me, and I did it. So God bless you. Love you guys, and Shabbat Shalom.
Shalom.
Hi, everyone.
Welcome to Shabbat.
Welcome to Shabbat.
We are so excited to be here tonight
Yes,
to just
we
share
are.
joy with you. Joy. Okay, so you have something you want to share?
I do.
Okay.
I
But wait
want
a minute.
to say-
I wanted to say something to you first. I want to ask you something.
Okay.
Okay. So, how many siblings did Joshua have? Joshua in the Bible.
9. No. 12. No, Joshua.
In the Bible, she said, you got the chick doesn't know Bible. It's okay, she's learning.
Well, no, you're not talking about Joseph.
I said Joshua. Joshua.
2.
Okay, 2. No.
4.
No.
8.
You ready to give up? Give
Yes.
in, not give up. We don't give up.
No, we
are
give in.
trying from trying.
I give in, though.
Yeah, I mean, she
Come
wants
on.
to know the answer.
Yes, come on.
Okay. Joshua, he didn't have any because he was the son of none.
That was a good one. That was a good
You like
one.
that?
I like that. I like
the son
that.
of none. Okay, so what did you want to share?
I want to share what I told my daughter this week. I
Okay.
told her that her best 2 weapons, her number 2
Is this
weapons.
about joy? This
This about joy.
Okay, just
This
check
about
it.
joy.
Just check it.
This about joy.
Okay, got to stay on the path, baby.
Got to stay on it.
Got to stay on it. Okay.
I told her 2 greatest weapon is faith and her mouth. Those are your 2 best weapons. Because
Okay.
the word says in Psalms 95 that we should shout for joy.
Okay.
Come on. Shout, everyone.
Shout for joy.
Shout for joy.
Shout for joy.
Come
Shout
on.
for joy. And so, is she doing it?
She doing it.
She doing it.
Every day.
Okay, every day.
She wrote
She
it on
doing
her
it.
mirror
She doing it.
in her bedroom.
Yes.
She wrote it in the bathroom on
What
her
did she
mirror.
write?
Shout for
Shout
joy.
for joy.
Shout for joy. Remember
Yes,
to shout for joy today.
Well, something happened to me this week.
What happened?
Something really bad. But God, right? But God. And if I hadn't been in the shouting for joy,
Come on.
that thing would have taken me under. Out
Wow.
and under. But you
Wow.
know what I did?
But you had joy,
I
right?
choose joy. Let it move you. I'm serious. I did. Really. That thing would have taken me out. And when I get complete victory, I will share it. But for now, I'm shouting for joy.
Shouting for joy.
Let it move you. Let it move you.
It doesn't matter what you're going through.
Doesn't matter what you're going through. Does not matter. Shout for joy.
If you don't
Yes.
see it yet, what?
Shout for joy. Because right
Come on.
now, I don't see it. But I'm shouting for joy.
Come
Because
on.
this is the month to leap forward. I'm leaping up.
Leaping.
I'm leaping over those demons, baby.
Leaping.
Leaping. Baby. Oh, let me tell you
Leaping
something
into
else.
joy.
One time, I was going through something really bad, and so it's like some more bad news came, and I got at the foot of my bed to pray again. I had prayed, and I'm
Wow.
praying again.
You're a bundle of bad.
Baby, that's why you got to shout for joy.
Okay.
So anyway, as I knelt down and Gary said, Lord, I don't know what else to pray, I burst out laughing.
Did you?
Seriously, the
Wow.
Spirit of God hit me.
Wow.
I burst out laughing. I sat at the foot of my bed instead of doing that religious thing of kneeling, which we should kneel, but you know what I'm saying. But anyway, I just started laughing.
Come on.
And I just started
Come on.
laughing. And that thing broke off
Come
of
on,
me.
joy overtook
Joy
you. It
overtakes
overtakes.
every time.
Come on.
Let it move you. Hey, let it move you.
Come on.
That's exciting,
In the
isn't it?
good
And
and
in
the
the
bad
bad.
times.
We have
Let
to.
it overtake.
So what's the megaphone for?
This is to remind you to shout. Now,
Yes.
Elaine can shout for joy.
I can for joy,
She can
for
shout.
joy.
She don't need a megaphone. She don't need it. This is all mine. All mine, not hers, because if she picked up the megaphone, you people in Iowa, you could hear her. Yeah, in Massachusetts, yeah. You in China, yeah, y'all hearing her shout for joy. Yes.
Me? Yes, you.
Yes,
okay.
you.
Okay.
Yes, you. Yes, you.
But anyway,
we
the
want to
megaphone.
remind you.
To shout for joy. Joy, let it move you. Let it move you. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
She has no wisdom.
reeling, watching the nightly news. Don't seem to find the rhythm, just want to sing the blues. Feels like the song that never stops. Feel like it's never gonna. Gotta get that fire back in my bones before my heart turns into stone. So would somebody please pass the megaphone? I'll shout it on a count of 3. Oh, hear my prayer tonight. I'm singing to the sky. Give me strength to raise my voice. Let me testify. Oh, hear my prayer tonight. 'Cause this is do or die. The time has come to make the choice, and I choose. Let it move. Let it move. Let it move. Well, I choose. Let it move you. Let it move. Let it move you. Yeah, back when I was younger, full of life. But now that I am older, I live at the speed of light. Feels like the cycle never stops. Feel like it's never gonna. Gotta get that fire back in my bones.
Decree it right now. New fire in your bones.
Can somebody please pass the megaphone? I'll shout it on the count of 3. Oh, hear my prayer tonight. I'm singing to the sky. Give me strength to raise my voice. Let me testify. Oh, hear my prayer tonight. 'Cause this is do or die. The time has come to make the choice, and I choose. Let it move. Let it move. Oh, let it move.
Joy.
Yeah, I choose. Oh, let it move. Let it move. Let it move. 'Cause I choose. Oh, let it move. Oh, let it move. Oh, let it move. 'Cause I choose. Oh, let it move you. Let it move. Let it move. Oh, I walk through the valley of the shadow of death. Oh, with you by my side, I'm stepping into the light. I choose. Let it move you. Let it move. Let it move.
Joy. Shout it.
Let it move you. Let it move you. Oh, let it move you. 'Cause I choose. Oh, let it move you. Let it move. Let it move. I need that joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Down in my heart to stay. I need that joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Down in my heart to stay. I need that joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Down in my heart to stay. We need that joy, 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 joy down in my heart. Down in my heart to stay.
Everything the enemy tried to rob from you this week, decree new joy, new strength, new power.
Let it move you. Oh, let it move you. Oh, let it move you. 'Cause I choose. Oh, let it move you. Let it move. Let it move. Though I walk through the valley
Hey everyone, Simon Beef 2. I just wanted to share something that the Lord was speaking to me actually during when we were filming Chuck. When he was speaking earlier for this service, he was talking about how in this time we're in a shaking season. The Lord is shaking a lot of things. There's a lot of chaos. Even if you turn on the news, you can see there's just a lot of shaking going on in the earth right now. And while Chuck was speaking and he was stirring that up, the Lord spoke to me this phrase. He said, shift while I sift. And that was just like such a word to me because the Lord was just showing me that he is shaking everything right now. He is shaking up things that are going on in the world right now, but it's a sifting that he's doing. He's shaking loose some things. He's shaking things so that you'll be sifted into different places, and the thing that he really highlighted was the shifting. Chuck writes in Redeeming the Time, the whole first chapter of this book is actually about shifting and making a shift. And the thing that the Lord really wanted to like highlight is that shifting, regardless of what is happening shaking wise or sifting wise, shifting to you is a personal decision. You have to decide to shift. You have to make the decision to shift. The Lord can shake things up. The Lord can sift things. The Lord can move things around and shift things in the realm that you're in. But in order for you to shift, you have to make the decision to shift. And Chuck writes that a shift is a change of place, position, or direction. And I was really just hearing the Lord saying, it's our responsibility to shift in this time. You have to decide to shift. It's your responsibility to decide to shift in this time as the Lord is shaking. And you can be shifted around or sifted around, but if you decide to shift in this season, then you will be in the place that the Lord would have for you. So I encourage all of you to shift, to make the decision to shift, because no one is going to make that decision for you. You have to decide to shift during this time of sifting. So I just want to bless you and leave you with that, but let's make this shift together.
Hey there, everybody. Thank you so much once again for sitting down with us, spending your time with us, and allowing us to just sort of share what's happening here. I'm glad you could be a part of it. You know, this is the week before Purim, and Purim is a very special time for us as, you know, kingdom people. And so this week I have been thinking a lot, I've been reading a lot about Purim, and Chuck has too. And we've had like a few conversations about it. And as I've sort of been pondering it and wondering through it, there is a element of transformation, right? That's what I've been pulling out of this. And when you read through that story, you know, it's contextually speaking, it's hard to try and graft the realities of it into our modern life, because it's just, you know, thematically, like, yes, we can garner like a few things. It's like, oh, we have to know who we are and all these sorts of things. But you know, when I was thinking it through, like the transformation aspect, and I was, you know, doing my daily readings and things this week, I was reading in Proverbs, as I am, you know, I do all the time, but Proverbs 2:2 really jumped out at me like it hadn't before. And this is, you know, this is a verse I've read many times, but it says, so that thou incline thine ear unto wisdom, and apply thine heart to understanding. And when I read that, it was like I read it for the first time, because all these words began to jump out at me in just this fresh way, like apply and heart and understanding. And I wanted to know the depth of those words. So, you know, when I was looking at the word apply, we have a very, you know, basic understanding what that word means. It's like, oh, I'm applying myself to this. But when you look at the word, it's more like I'm spreading out. Like it's like you're throwing out a sheet, or the picture of it, it's like squash vines, like growing outward and like covering a large space. And when you put that into the context of like applying your heart, right? And the term heart, like it means so much for us. It's a very dramatic, romantic word, you know, but it has this link to our inner person, our inner man, or inner woman, right? And as I was thinking through that, I was like, man, applying your heart, like spreading out your heart, spreading out your inner man. It's like, what does that even mean? Like, how am I spreading out my inner man to gain understanding? And the Lord sort of spoke to me and became clear, like, oh, your inner man is sort of like your like subconscious, right? We have this, you know, this very active like conscious life, and this sort of base subconscious layer in which all these things are operating and happening. It's just like Robert's message this past week, right? The video game, the code, right? All these things. And I started to read about like your conscious and subconscious and those states and what they mean. And I came across like a lot of research by Carl Jung, right, who is one of the fathers sort of psychiatry and all those sorts of things. And he's the guy that coined the terms for like introvert and extrovert, and he laid all the groundwork for these sort of archetypes of personality and the way like our conscious and subconscious are tied together. He's, you know, a great body of work. And he had this one quote that, man, it just really jumped out at me, because it was like the Lord was speaking it to me as I read it. But it says, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. And when I read that, it was like the Lord took the word fate and replaced it with God's will. So it was like, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it God's will. And I begin to see this whole picture of, myself firsthand, but, how people can operate like this, and where we have no real understanding of what's happening one layer beneath the conscious level. And we don't want to look at it. We don't want to change. We don't want to be cognizant of it, because it would mean it requires change. And so we just chalk all these things up to, it must be God's will that this is happening, or I just can't do such and such, so it just must not be God's will for me. And it's just like what Lisa was talking about. It's like there has to be a willingness and a desire to endure in order for us to overcome. And when I was going back through that, and then I got that piece, and then I started reading Proverbs 2 again, and thinking about the inner man, and thinking about what it means to apply the inner man, and having your inner man reach out, right, with discernment into all these directions to create this greater understanding of why we are the way we are, and what God meant for us in that. And it's just like it says in 2 Corinthians, it's 3:18. It says, "So all of us, with faces unveiled, see as in a mirror the glory of God. And we are being changed into his very image, from one degree of glory to the next, by Adonai the Spirit." And after he led me there, I was looking at this and thinking, man, this is so true, because if we are not spreading out, and if we are not applying our heart to understanding, then we are basically just applying our heart to what we see. And in those cases, our physical environment is what we are changed into, and not the image of God, right? Because our physical environment is a reflection in a lot of ways of our spiritual environment. And I got this picture of, our homes, or our workplaces, or our relationships, and all these things. It's not just stuff. They're not just objects in your room. They are relationships. And you will have relationship with everything in your environment. And if it's not good, then you are being changed into that, because that is the mirror you're looking into. If you are not looking into the face of God, if you are not looking deeper, if you are not applying your heart to understanding God, then you are just looking at this environmental mirror that holds all of these toxic remembrances of the past, and it's not God's design. And I think that's just part of our struggle as spiritual beings, because there is so much built into us that is we are designed to become what we focus on. And that is God's intent, because he wants us focusing on him. He wants us applying our hearts to him. And when we are not doing that, when we are preventing our hearts from spreading out, then we are just putting everything in a box, and we just become the box. That's all our spirit can ever be, is a box, because we won't allow it to spread out. And that is why we need the presence, the living presence of God in our lives, and we need to be seeking the living presence of God in our lives so that we can be transformed. That's how he connected Esther for me, right? Because she had to go through that whole process. She had to become something else. She had to let go of a lot. And she had to physically manifest a change within herself in order to be seen as worthy before the king. You know, a partial view would not have done it for her. A partial transformation would not have done it for her. Partial anything wouldn't cut it in that situation. And you know, I've also been going over this idea of like intercession and trying to fully grasp like the core meaning of that, because it's you know, like I've talked about like last week, there's like a lot of words that we use in repetition and we use in a lot of circumstances, and we sort of have attributed a lot of meaning to, which is good and fine. Like that is part of like a social language and culture and all those sorts of things, but there is still like a core meaning in the word. And reading through Esther and understanding the elements of transformation, you also have to understand that that act was intercession. Like that is the physical manifestation of what intercession really was. Like Esther interceded on behalf of all the tribes, like all the children of God at that point. And it was a very physical boop moment, like very pointed. Robert calls it, right, the moment of destiny. And I don't think you can have really one without the other. You know, had the transformation not taken place, there wouldn't have been the grace for that intercession. And those things work hand in hand. And that is what I want to release to you right now. I want to release a transformation in your life. I want to release a true intercession on your behalf, because we are in grave times, and those are always the times that the Lord can shine brightest in us and for us and use us on His behalf. But if we are so boxed in, if we are so focused on what we want and what we want to see and what we think should happen, then we cannot intercede. If we are not letting God transform us, if He cannot touch your heart and you cannot apply your heart to His understanding, then you cannot intercede. No matter how much you pray, no matter what you say, no matter how good and Christian and great your words are, it doesn't matter, because that is not intercession. That is you trying to apply your will to a situation. We need intercession in this time. We need true transformation. We need to not be reflections of our environment. We need to be reflections of the living God dwelling within us, within everything, persisting all throughout creation. I hope you'll have a wonderful weekend. I hope to see you on Sunday. Make sure you are tuned in for Purim this week, because it's going to be very special and probably very timely. So we'll see you then.